Okay, so I've already got a hold. Let's see, we've done Catherine Gripshover. We're doing all the seven children aboard the Deutschland of the Gripshovers. So we see what happened with Catherine Gripshover. We've seen what happened with Barney the Fourth and Mary Bills, and then we see the Damasco connection. We see the George Anthony. We see some of the siblings, right? Catherine and Margaret. We see Henry and Mary Bischoff and John Bishop and Mary Gripshover, Catherine Gripshover. We see Henry Gripshover. This right here is incorrect. I should go ahead and actually just delete this. Mary Anakin. There is a Mary Anakin that marries a William Gripshover, but that is not the right William Gripshover. It's going to be a different William Gripshover. William is a popular name or whatever. So if there are other Gripshovers out there, other male Gripshovers, and so another William has popped up, and so this William Gripshover here, I don't find anything on him. So I think he just he dies a stud, right? He just dies by himself. He never has a wife, never has kids, and it doesn't go anywhere. There's out of all the children, there's five of the males that had children that carried on, the Gripshover name or the Gripshover, yeah, the Gripshover name. There's six of the children that had children, right? So you had the blood carries on. You got the Gripshover blood, and then you got the Gripshover name. That's the two things that are being carried on from generation to generation. So you carry the blood, you carry the name on, and Catherine Gripshover carries the blood on, but she doesn't carry the name. And the other five Gripshovers, William doesn't carry the name or blood on because he doesn't have any children, but the other five brothers are going to have children, and then those, that's going to be your main five Gripshover families. The Catherine Gripshover is going to be another Gripshover, right? That has to can be incorporated if they come around. But growing up, sort of being Stroob, they'll grow up as a Stroob. Will they actually identify with the Gripshover name? And in fact, we're half Brueggemann, right? So just think about ourselves. Do we identify ourselves with Brueggemann's? We have Brueggemann blood, right? Anna Katharina, Johann and Anna Katharina, the matriarch and patriarch, half of that blood is Brueggemann. So half the blood, half the Gripshover blood that you think that you have in your veins is actually, automatically half of that is Brueggemann blood. So how do you feel, before I told you that, how did you actually feel about the Brueggemanns? You are Brueggemann, right? So in terms of blood, just not in terms of name. All right, so of course that's obvious. So that's William Gripshover. We don't know what happens with William. Not married to Anakin. There is a Mary Anakin, but not married to the people that we want to be married to. Here's another. Let's see, not another, but here's an Arlinghouse Gripshover connection. Anna Catherine Gripshover is going to marry Albert C. Arlinghouse, and so you kind of see the picture there a little bit. But there's a whole bunch of them. I mean, look at all these. There's a whole bunch of children here. So who's this that has all the children? Here we have Theodore. Okay, so Theodore, this is Theodore Kunkel, or I'm sorry, Theodore Gripshover, who marries Frances Kunkel. So here's a Gripshover Kunkel connection, and the Kunkels, they are, I think they're Hessians. They're Germans, but they're Hessians, and the Hessians were known in the American Revolution as fighting against George Washington. So the British had paid some Hessian mercenaries, and some of the Hessian mercenaries came to America during the Revolution to shoot at John Adams and Thomas Jefferson and the other sort of slave-owning Indian genocide and aristocracy. So, in a way, they could be seen as heroic. That's the Kunkels. That's who Frances Kunkel was. She started out as being a Kunkel, Frances Bridget Kunkel. She marries Theodore Gripshover, has 5, 6, 7 kids with Theodore. He dies in the lake, or in the thing, right? He dies in the creek, and in 1901, which was either May 12th or the 18th. And so he dies, really young, and leaves all these kids a crop in the field. And then we see where all the kids kind of went. And so that's why we see, we see Francis and Theodore. We see how they're married, right? You see the two pictures. You also see two other Theodore Gripshovers, which means I need to combine those files together. And you also see more William Gripshover. So there's actually, I need to combine a lot. I need to straighten it up a little bit, but we see the overview, right? We see Theodore, Francis. We see the children. We see that there's another Theodore here. We see the Theodore fought in World War I. Right, so we see, and he looks awkward as hell. So we see, he has no father, whatever. He signed up for wartime. He signed up for war, as a teenager. He never had a father, so he's growing up without a father. So I mean, this is a fascinating story, and I hope that I think as we go on, we will probably will notice that certain families has a type of culture that we recognize, but just because the origins or the roots says, you know, that they're going to be crazy or accident prone, I guess you could say about Theodore Gripshover lineage. While you could say those things, that doesn't necessarily dictate what is going to happen to them. If anything, I think the best thing is going to be the economics and land. And they said that Anna Katharina divided the land evenly, and I don't know if that's 100% true. I know that's what they reported in the newspaper. And then there's about 3 names that they had mentioned. Is there only 3 names that's still alive? 1900, I think she dies 1900. And I think there's still more Gripshovers out there. The Catherine's already dead, right? So that's one kid that's sort of out of the running. But the land, who passes the land on? Why did Henry in that land map? Henry had land. Henry at least had a house on a land map, right? So either he had his own land or he had his own house. And then Bernard Gripshover, there was 2 Bernard Gripshovers, which indicates that Bernard the First or Johann had a plot of ground, and then the eldest Bernard the Fifth, right? So you had Johann the second, right? So the pioneer, you had Johann, the main dude. He had his own land, and then you had another Bernard Gripshover, and that would be Barney the Fourth. At least that's what it indicates. It could have been both of those plots, which just says B Gripshover on them, could very much have been both. Could have been Johann's. But nonetheless, we're piecing all this together, and I think when you look at the finances and the economics, that's going to be a better indication of who succeeds and who doesn't succeed. If you've given the land and you're given the wealth, you're going to have a better chance of succeeding. Whereas if you don't have those types of things, if you're raised to just kind of be a dumb slave, then you're going to slip off on a wagon and then you're going to drown, right, of pneumonia. Or you're going to have struggles, and you're going to have, you're going to be picking strawberries, thinking that's how you're going to get rich, is by picking strawberries. And very much, that is how you work the land and you make money off the land. But making the big decisions and understanding the big picture, it makes picking those strawberries so much sweeter and so much better. You're not just picking this one here, you're picking for the whole, for the whole shebang. So this is Theodore Gripshover, born Ottmars Becholt, right, in Nord Rhine-Westphalen. That's Nord Rhine is the same thing as, that's German. It's the same thing as North Rhine, right? So North Rhine-Westphalia is a region of today. The regions kept on switching. We're all Prussian. When they came over here, they called themselves Prussian. Johann called himself Prussian and all of his family. But that's, they weren't Hessian Prussian, or they weren't Bavarian Prussian or Bohemian Prussian, right? They were Westphalian Prussian, which is a distinct dialect of language. It also could carry on its own, unique cultures. In the country of Germany now, there's 16 states. And so whereas the Kunkels are Hessians, the Gripshovers were not Hessians. So the Gripshovers and Kunkels would not have, they would have been able to probably understand each other, but they probably spoke different languages, had different cultures and ideas about how to live life. Whereas the Romans might look at all of them as just a bunch of German barbarians. The Hessians probably thought of themselves as better than, the Ottmars Becholdians or the Westphalians. And so they probably, I'm not saying they did or didn't. I'm just saying when you have nationalism, when you develop yourself around sort of an idea, and if you understood yourself to be Hessian all your life, then that meant something to you. I'm a Hessian, right? So if you're a Hessian, that means the Hessians are good. I'm a Hessian, and therefore anybody that's not a Hessian isn't. Okay, so this is Kunkel. This is Frances Kunkel, right? She's a darling of a woman there. And then Theodore Gripshover. I love these old time pictures. I mean, he looks so elegant. They're all dressed up in nice clothes. I even saw one of them wearing gloves. Right, he's got like a little chain, wearing a vest, has a little, a flower. Shows that we came from sort of at one time respectability. We cared about a reputation. They had some nice little boots going on, right? And so the Victorian culture, this is us getting married. So they're going to take this picture for us to live in all time and understand what's going on. So that's, let's see, then you have Theodore Gripshover here, right? He fights in the war. We have Kate Gripshover, Catherine Gripshover, Charles J. Good, Albert C. Arlinghouse, right? I already kind of mentioned that connection, the Arlinghouse Gripshover connection. There's the Robert Hun and Mary Frances, so the Huns are related to us. And Hun, actually, I mean, that seems very German, the Huns. And the last name is literally Hun. Let's see, Charles Good. Emma Knuckle. Let's see. This is this would be Jacob and Samuel Clarence's lineage. And so where they are, let's see, Theodore's going to have, I think, Joseph Ferdinand, okay? And so this is where Samuel Clarence and Jacob are going to have, this is their lineage, okay? They come from Theodore Gripshover's lineage. I come from Ferdinand and Barney V's. We all come from Johann and Catherine, but the brothers is where we're going to have differentiation. And so when we talk about where, our lineages are, I think it's going to be, what kind of Gripshover are you? Are you a Theodore Gripshover? Are you a Ferdinand Gripshover? Or Barney V Gripshover? Where you come from, nigga? Where your grandma stay? So that's Joseph Ferd Gripshover. He has Clarence, right? And then Clarence is his sort of, I guess, claim to fame is he got burnt up in the Beverly Hills supper fire. So the biggest fire that killed most people, the fire that's killed more people in all the United States, it also took one of our own, took Clarence Gripshover. And he was a trained engineer. He was doing really well for himself in the Beverly Hills Supper Club. You had to be somebody to be in the Beverly Hills Supper Club. But there was electronic and there was a bunch of who's who. So there could have been an assassination. There could have been one guy that, had pissed somebody off. And so they just want to get that one guy. And so they started this fire. But also, what about the hazardous, the regulations? So a fire happens and then 177 or 120 people die. My God, you couldn't get anybody outside. How does a fire happen in one part of the place and you can't get out the other side? It's, a panic could happen or whatever, but there's a lot of questions. Nobody ever found out what had actually happened, and so nobody got in trouble for it. Very much seemed like it's deliberate. Could have been insurance money. Could have been an insurance fraud type of thing too. But this is where Samuel and Jacob, this is their, all right, they had Teresa, May, and Eddie, and then Eddie, he has Jacob and I think I think he's their father. And so Eddie has Clarence and Jacob and some other ones too. So there's a lot of names actually I'm missing. But this, if you're first cousins or you're a brother or sister of the people that I'm talking about, I mentioned Ben. There's Bernie too. Bernie had said that he was actually named after Bernard. And then there's this one, and then there's me too. Actually, I get a double dose of Gripshover, right? So I get Ferdinand and Barney, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but it does mean that I have two connections. So therefore, all the Ferdinand Gripshovers and then all the Barney fifth Gripshovers, Bernard the fifth, all their descendants, I would be related to. Directly related to, more related to than say like people from Theodore. There's a lot of information actually I found about Blanchetts. Actually, this is a good sort of rule of thumb or sort of vantage point. I'm not a Blanchett, and neither are any of the Gripshovers. The ones that I've named, the one that has Gripshover as the last name. So Sam and Jake are not Blanchetts, and then you're going to have Bernie, and you're going to have Ben. None of those folks are Blanchetts. But there are, whenever you marry into the family, that person doesn't become a Gripshover, but every one of their descendants are. So there's a Blanchett Gripshover connection, and that was Betty Blanchett, and that was, let's see, that's Teresa. That's that goes back to here. It goes way back. It goes to, I think, Barney. I think it goes back to Barney the Fifth and George Gripshover in Damasco, I think. Yeah, let's check this out. So we have George Gripshover. Let's check out George Gripshover's family tree, and then we can check out Damasco. I didn't check out the last people. We still have Ferdinand to check out, and let's see, Ferdinand, and there's another young one, right? So I guess I'm going to have to do another video. But we're learning stuff, right? This is fun. So you have George Anthony Gripshover, who's married to Mary Ann Damasco. So this is our Damasco connection. Now, Mary Ann Damasco and George are going to have a ton of Gripshover kids. So we're going to see a lot of, a lot of kids actually come from this sort of part of the family. Barney the Fifth. There's, Barney's important or whatever, but really it's George Anthony that has all the Gripshover children. And so we see the Arlinghouse too. We'll see this gentleman here, Albert Joseph Arlinghouse. It says there that he was actually my first cousin once removed. I don't even know this guy. I've never met this guy in my life. Albert Joseph Arlinghouse. And it said he died 2 years ago. But in the thing, it says that actually he's my first cousin once removed. So we'll take a look at that, and then we're going to take a look at the Blanchett connection. We're going to finish it. We're going to finish all this up, okay? If we have, the time. I guess it doesn't really give a closer picture. But Albert Joseph Arlinghouse, it says your first cousin once removed. Butch.